This is the DM. The DM has a vision for how the game should go, a classic story of plucky heroes saving the world from the clutches of an undead menace. And this is our adventuring party? They don't want to save anybody at all. They want to do the opposite, actually. They are rigging the stock market so they can get rich. With heroes like these, who needs a villain? But you might be familiar with today's sponsor, ChetPeku. We've covered them a few times in the past, but they have something new to offer. You see, ChetPeku normally makes the most popular maps on Patreon by far, with over 70,000 total members, over 19,000 being paid. The record speaks for itself. ChetPeku normally creates unique and original worlds with outlandish themes and ideas you won't find anywhere else. They created the maps for years. Now they have tokens to go with them. Discover monsters, player characters, and NPC tokens to bring life to your games. They also take suggestions from the community to make monsters you want to fight. Subscribe now for 5 new tokens every week, each with accessory and color options. There are endless customizable options for every token. So after this video, check out our good friends in the link below. Role post. I started as every dungeon master does, with a dream. I had a carefully crafted, traditional story. My players would venture into the catacombs where they would unwittingly open the tomb of the undead King Sar, embarking on an epic quest to defeat him, battling monsters, uncovering ancient secrets, and stopping the nefarious, villainous necromancer. It was to be a sweeping tale of heroism and sacrifice, but my players, oh my players, had another idea. This campaign was not about defeating evil or saving the world. It was about avarice and riches, and they won, but in their victory they lost everything. A prominent piece of this campaign fashion is resource management. Money is a major resource, as are materials and components to cast their spells and repair their items. Magical components and weapon durability were like ammunition to attack, so they needed to watch their purse. Now to the main point. Included in my design was a robust market system with fluctuating prices. The party is supposed to feel the consequences of their actions in the prices of the things they buy. Collapse an iron mine, the prices of weapons and armor go up. Destroy an alchemist guild, the prices of potions go up. Sink a fleet of shipping vessels? We'll return to that. The purpose was to integrate the players into the world more deeply and make it feel natural, necessitating side quests focused on the changing prices of goods and the changing prices of resources. What I didn't realize was that the market would become the entire campaign. Early in the first session, the party hadn't enough gold to buy all of the gear that they wanted, so they had to find another way to raise funds. My intention was for them to do a brief side quest to break the monotony of a shopping session. But instead, the bard, Cyrus, took a keen interest in the price of leather. The rogue, Calliope, suggested buying low and selling high. I encouraged it. Yes, if you're willing to bet your hard-earned gold that prices will change, investing in materials is a good way to make some side money. They were excited with this system and willing to gamble. I was thrilled to see my system being used as intended. They pooled their purses to buy all of the leather that they could afford for 50 gold. Then, they waited one day to see their gains. To their dismay, prices went down. They considered cutting their losses, but they held on to their investment. They stubbornly kept the leather in the market at a 5% markup. Days passed. Market conditions didn't improve for them, so they followed the main story instead. The intended route was for them to unwittingly free an ancient undead king and spend the rest of the campaign tracking and recapturing him. And for the first precious moments of the game, it went exactly as planned. They explored the catacombs, battling undead as well as any suspicion that they are the subjects of the prophecy inscribed on the wall, foreshadowing that a group of explorers will unwittingly release an undead scourge upon the land that will kill the world so that he can raise it and all of its inhabitants as undead under his supreme command. They rolled to decipher these hieroglyphics detailing this, and they understood the main points, but they missed out on a major detail. They mistakenly believed that the prophecy is about a death cult that does this on purpose. The cleric, Cloud, vows to protect this tomb from any intruders. Oh, don't mind me trespassing through. What was the DM's plan if the party understood the prophecy and chose not to open the cask and just walked away? I'm guessing that the backup plan was for another actual death cult to open it, and that would be a great example of railroading done right. It's literally a prophecy, it's gonna be fulfilled, and you either get a great story of the party being the beginning and end of the world's troubles, and you also deepen the existing theme of the player's actions affecting the world around them. Or, on the other hand, you get the cool death cult as bonus villains. In short, and to preserve the brevity of this tale, they see a large, mirror-polished golden chest. Suspecting it's a trap hiding a grand treasure, they open it, and who emerges but a tall, spindly, highly decorated lich. Battling him in a long, bloody stalemate, both sides live to fight another day. Fleeing in opposite directions, it dawned on our party that they were the prophesized harbingers of doom. They freed King Sar the Ancient. The party returned to town, heads hanging low. They knew that it's only a matter of time before the undead king returns, stronger than before. Our glum band was interrupted by some good news. The leather sold. They quickly stopped fussing over King Sar just long enough to celebrate their successful trade. From henceforth, this party would go on to completely abandon my carefully crafted storyline to focus on beating the market. Their goal was not stopping the undead warpath, it was making as much money as possible by any means possible. They took their money and spent the rest of their time allocating it into multiple materials that they considered undervalued, after weighing their existing price against the market value and existing supply. Grain, leather, potion ingredients. The last thing they did was search for mercenary side quests to sustain their cost of living while they were investing. Noticing the game I crafted shift out of focus for a side feature, I asked them point blank, "Are you sure you want to let the undead go unchecked? He will be active even if you're not directly opposing him." The party was not all in agreement. One of them considered it wise to focus on tracking King Sar for now, but the other three reasoned that the king will make the first move, and the party is better off becoming as rich and powerful as possible to stop him when he does. The party had their first executive meeting. Cyrus: "Brilliance. I propose we reinvest our earnings into new materials." Cloud, our cleric, responded, "We should put some money aside for provisions while we hunt that undead creature." This was responded to with silence. But Cloud was correct. That is what the campaign was about, but no other party members seemed to think that. So the NPC quest giver that they reported to spoke up. "You would do well to listen to him. This King Sar is a pressing threat to our very existence. Steel yourselves and pursue him post-haste." Calliope deceptively agreed. "But let's invest for the purpose of arming ourselves as much as money can buy." Cyrus agreed with her. "Yes, we can rely on King Sar making the first move. That is predictable. We will invest and grow more powerful to meet him when he arrives. Fighting defensively is advantageous after all." Cloud didn't argue back, but I believe we both knew this was a big mistake. When I first penned this campaign, the plan was for King Sar to work in silence, not being taken seriously by any standing authorities. The party would have to take responsibility into their own hands. King Sar was not about to attack unless he was certain that victory was at hand. The entire scenario was based on King Sar being hunted by the party, but I did what a good DM does. I sigh, quietly bin my plans for the campaign, and in my spare time I rewrote the game to better fit both the players and my own aims. I detailed other companies and the people who control them, as well as resource hubs. In only 2 sessions of honest trading, expansion, and mercenary work, the party bought a warehouse and filled it with bulk goods, grain, iron, and essential materials. But they had their dues to pay, and mercenary work was not enough to cover the operation fees of a growing organization. Market conditions were not in their favor either. That's when Cyrus asked the local Traders Guild representative a question. The prices of gold haven't gone up in a long time. Why is that? Well, due to an increase in local mining, we don't have to pay a premium to transport iron from other regions. And what a good thing that is. Now everyone has access to affordable iron. Cyrus leaned back in his chair. Interesting. One can probably tell where this is going. The party planned their own search and destroy mission. They procured a map, asked locals for information on the mines, and over the course of 4 real-life weeks, they located weak points, sourced explosive materials, infiltrated and destroyed the iron mines, causing a crippling shortage, all while investing in iron. This was an expensive maneuver, but it paid. You know what I find hilarious about all this? This scenario is exactly every DM's dream. The party is taking initiative, using in-game sources, studying the systems in place, and plotting the mission out themselves with the knowledge that they've acquired throughout the course of the game. As a player and a DM, those are the best moments, where you give the players the tools and they independently build something with them. But of course, they are directing that perfectly good energy into doing something actually evil. Overnight, their iron stores might as well have been a platinum mine, but more importantly, they learned their new favorite feature of my world. They plotted at the table, they plotted in the group chat, they spent session after session after session staging a sabotage of the harbor to cut off shipments of competing goods. They then burnt competitors' warehouses to the ground. Over time, this escalated into piracy, boarding and looting merchant ships, which scaled into funding pirate captains to sink competitors' merchant ships. They enjoyed a lot of success in this. They went from poor, scrappy adventurers to exceedingly rich as their enterprise progressed. Now a dominant hand in the kingdom, they bought the nicest headquarters atop the tallest tower in the city, and they schemed how they could possibly do better than they are right now. But we can't forget King Sar now, can we? Taking advantage of the lack of opposition, King Sar mounted a massive attack, revealing himself and leaving a trail of destruction behind him. The party joined the defense of the city as volunteers. It was a grand battle throughout the outskirts of the city that lasted 2 days. The party, reunited with King Sar, beat him and his minions back through the countryside, and they were given medals for their gallantry by the nobility. They rode back into town to a hero's welcome. The people were in high spirits, though on the outskirts of town, homes and businesses were in ruins. Cyrus had another idea. Wow, this is a hard sight to see. Perhaps we can fix it. Should we purchase these buildings? This is the tipping point where the party went from shady criminals to outright tyrannical, because now they had their sights directly set on the commoners. From the shadows, they continued to destroy farms, extort local businesses, buy them out, all sorts of horrid thievery. But gods forbid anyone use the party's own tactics against them. One time, a competing potion maker undercut market prices. So, naturally, our heroes burned down his factory with him locked inside. They called it eliminating competition. I called it arson and murder. As far as sandbox campaign concepts go, this is being executed flawlessly, but it's all by accident. The best sandbox game you could hope for is one where the players choose their goal and strive towards it in their own way. But they're doing this only because they rocked the campaign off rails and the DM just kept the train chugging along into unplanned territory. I kind of hesitate to even call this a horror story. It's entertaining for unplanned and crazy reasons, but this campaign actually sounds really fun. I get that the party's stated goal was to consolidate power and wealth so that they can address the undead threat when it arrives, and this could open an interesting conversation about whether the ends justify the means, but they haven't really attempted to solve the ends meaningfully. It's as if they don't even care about the ends at all. The ends here are just a convenient excuse to brutalize people and have terrible means. This party is staring an Avengers-level threat right in the face, watching the undead army raise itself, kill people. It's even attacking the surrounding towns, and the party doesn't only choose to ignore it, they choose to make it worse. Their greed knew no bounds. They framed an influential guild leader for murder to destabilize trade negotiations between rivals. They sabotaged public health facilities and bought them for cheap. Now you know the cycle the party used. Sabotage, buy low, wait, sell materials, buy assets, repeat. But this level of criminality didn't go unnoticed. The party was making some very powerful people very, very angry, and they were about to learn a painful lesson. While the government and competing businesses were preparing to retaliate, our heroes were in the armory, sharpening their weapons and preparing their next attack. The party received an anonymous tip about a caravan of medical supplies on its way to a small town. "Are you sure you want to do this?" I asked, as they prepared to ambush a caravan of medical supplies. "Absolutely," said Calliope. "We're cornering the market." I gave them a chance to back out, because these weren't medical supplies for people in need at all. It was the police. The party watched from their trees under a moonlit night, waiting for the wagon to enter their trap. Just as quickly as the caravan entered the kill zone, the party descended onto it, and the police sprung into action from the inside. A fight began that the party was not prepared to finish. They expected some resistance by way of armed guards, but every wagon that was supposed to contain supplies had another squad of guards. It wasn't long before our company decided to cut their losses and flee. This was a devastating blow to the party, and the investigation benefited massively. While the police didn't see the party's faces, they did have their height, build, weapons, armor, abilities. The route they took into town was tracked, and the police now know that there were 4 of them. The party returned to their tower in the city. The next day, vague descriptions of them were on wanted posters that filled the streets. This was a defeat, and they knew it. Upon seeing their descriptions on wanted posters, they quickly destroyed the armor and weapons that they've been using. But their faces remained unseen, so they could still be seen in public. But they knew now that they were being watched. They could not trust anybody anymore. I'm sorry, but is this party stupid? A lot of this is just stupidity. You're telling me that an experienced criminal outfit that has become a dominating force through sheer fucking will is just accepting anonymous tips from anybody. I don't know. That's how it was described at the beginning. It said that they received an anonymous tip that some pharmaceuticals were getting shipped and that it's go time. And they just bit. That's it. That's all it fucking took, I guess. I don't know. I'm probably missing some context. Why would they not include the context, though? They sound so stupid. They hired more mercenaries to handle their workload, but the mercenaries didn't always succeed. The police investigation was making more progress every time they arrested one, and the extent that the party could meddle in other companies' affairs without outing themselves was slim. I suspected that the party might cut their losses and follow the main story at this point. I had dropped repeated hints that King Sar was gaining power. Aside from the attack, graveyards would be found empty, temples desecrated, sightings of the living dead were increasing, and the party was by far wealthy enough for the best equipment and items to pursue. This is the final chapter of the story. I could pen a novel just off of them navigating the police investigation, corporate enemies, and internal threats, but this is the summary. The party declared open war on the police. They started with corruption, paying law enforcement to turn a blind eye. They then made their henchmen mass file police reports on nights where the party was going to be active so they wouldn't get caught again. As the police adapted to this behavior, our heroes adapted back, orchestrating raids, assassinating leaders, getting their henchmen to join the police as spies. They even went out of their way to sign a weapons contract with the police and cut their shipments with flimsy gear. They executed a hostile takeover of the biggest rival company. Controlling both yielded a monopoly on most resources. But the other major players, companies, political figures, and even crime organizations were well aware of what was going on, and they knew exactly who was behind it. They fought back, disrupting the party's operations, and every time a henchman was captured, the police could build a stronger paper trail against the party. The war was long fought and never truly ended. It became a manageable pain for the party, though. But they had a problem. If you suspect that it's the unaddressed legions of undead rallying for another attack, you would be correct, but the party wasn't thinking about that. Instead, pitying themselves of the fact that they only owned almost everything. Meanwhile, the ancient King Sar is at his apex, but the party had no time for that at all. The recovering market conditions were not favorable for a war at this moment. "We'll go to war," said Calliope, "after we stabilize the currency." King Sar reached the height of his power, assembled his army of undead, and prepared to unleash the final apocalyptic ritual. The party, meanwhile, had just started reinvesting in the economy. They established a central mint and printed new coinage, and they were trying to bully the king into legitimizing it when the session ended. "Do you guys realize that the world is ending?" I asked them, only half jokingly after the session. "Yeah," said Cyrus. I guess we should deal with that soon." They spent the next week ordering the most powerful gear and enchantments money can buy, rallying their henchmen, and warning all of the nobility to prepare for war. Finally, the day of reckoning arrived. King Sar's ritual reached its climax. The skies turned red. The ground split open. Legions of undead poured forth. The party, newly minted tycoons of a broken world, stood atop their tower, surveying the destruction they had quite directly enabled. As all great GMs do, I wrapped it up on a cliffhanger. The world of the living is broken, and the undead forces are perfectly slanted to destroy the kingdom. I have 2 weeks to prepare. What do I do? Okay, this story just kind of ended, and I don't feel like I know your party or your goals well enough to give you a firm path forward. Are you trying to end the campaign or keep it going? That being said, this could go a few different ways. 1, you end the campaign here with a final showdown. Some parties are totally cool with going down in flames, but most will probably want to win. Even though this party winning would make all of their previous choices kind of meaningless. 2, keep the game going. So far, you've only referenced a kingdom. If a bigger world is out there, then the party can just flee and join them with the forces of order. Or, 3, you can use this as world building for your next campaign. You could make a whole new apocalypse survival game out of this. And the best part is, the party helped build the campaign setting. Think Walking Dead or Attack on Titan and just go from there. Anywho, I hope this helps. Till next time.